Hi, this is going to be my module two application activity about co-teaching and my collaboration plan. Um, I really enjoyed reading these three articles and then chapter two in our textbook because I could really relate it to my everyday life, what I do, because I'm not an official special ed teacher in my class. I'm the TA, but I kind of feel like the main teacher and me, like we do a lot of a lot of these co-teaching strategies, models. Me and her really have to work as a team to make sure all 15 of our kids in our self-contained classroom have the right resources, instruction. So all of this was really nice to read because I'm like, oh, I do some of like I do that, but also made me kind of dive into like the research out there. There isn't that much research. Obviously the articles talk about the types of studies that have been done about co-teaching, but there isn't a lot of these studies talk about how they don't know how beneficial it is with the student outcome. Like they know that it's very highly used in the US right now for different reasons, but there's not enough information on enough studies, quantitative and qualitative, that show is it really helping our kids? Is it helping kids with ID? Is it helping kids especially with special needs? Like, is the inclusive setting that beneficial? That's the question. So let's get into the three questions we have for this assignment. The first question is describe how you would form a working and collaborative relationship with a colleague in Gen Ed. So I'm gonna pretend that I'm the special ed teacher and I'm working with another colleague who is Gen Ed. So that's honestly like my dream right now. I would love to be in an AM inclusion classroom because the stuff shows you like if you do it effectively, it can be very beneficial. Um, but going back to the relationship part of this question, I would make sure I first am forming a trusting relationship. Like you guys one of the articles talks about how people that volunteer to co-teach is really good because volunteering means that you want to do it. So these people are passionate, they will try their hardest, they are willing to work as a team. And that's what co-teaching is. So I would want to have another co-teacher that also sees that we want to have equal responsibility. I think that's a big thing. The article talked about how sometimes it's a gen ed teacher doing all the instruction and the special ed teacher's just kind of there just in the back to kind of mediate and help with relationships, help with modifying assignments, stuff like that, which is great. But having that it shows that if you have that equal responsibility, how you both think, oh, this is my classroom, these are my kids, you both try your hardest to be that main teacher. That's what I would love to happen because that looks very the articles make it look like that's how co-teaching works the best. Both people have to be up to the plate. You're both gen ed and special ed teacher. You both have to do as much work as you can. So that's the kind of relationship I would want in a co-teaching environment. I would personally look work on active listening. Listening is a big thing that I'm working on right now. I love to talk, 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 but with a relationship, you need to both be talking. You need to be talking and listening. So I want to hear my co-teacher's opinion. They just as much as they hopefully they want to hear mine, and we can kind of just have an open conversation and learn each other's nonverbal listening cues. Chapter two talked a lot about those little components to co-teaching, which you don't really think about, but how you interact, how you talk, and how your body language and how you are with the co-teacher shows a lot, and just makes that relationship either really strong or it makes it not very strong. And it's just really important to think about what you're doing, your body's doing, and how you're listening, how you're communicating, your verbal cues, your eye contact, all of that. I would be making sure I did that if I was in a co-teaching environment. Another thing for this question, I would want to meet. for planning as much as I can, at least once a week. The teacher I'm with right now, every Friday we kind of plan what we're gonna do for the next week, meaning like rotations, like because we like to have rotations that are meaningful and like kind of have the same topic. So that takes time. One of the articles talks about the co-teaching article discusses how hard and like the truth of planning, and like that's one of the big factors they found in this study was teachers just need help with planning, or they just don't have time to plan. Like no one has time to plan, but you have to find the extra time in a co-teaching setting because if you're not on the same page, you don't know what you're doing the next day, then co-teaching isn't going to be effective and one person will just take the lead and the other person will sit in the back. So I would really want to have a relationship where we are on the same page about planning, and put that as a priority in our classroom. Okay, number two talks about an approach to co-teaching that I would want to implement and how I would change that to ensure positive impacts on students. I said I always do this now, but I would love to do station teaching because it allows for both the gen ed teacher and the special ed teacher to they can both modify the material at both of their stations. They can both have that one-on-one time with each student, which is the kind of intensive instruction that's needed. Like co-teaching is there to give two teachers in the classroom, which is two teachers more, that's more instruction, more hopefully intensive instruction. And so having both teachers at both groups and having more eyes, more help, more everything with each student, I just love the idea of station teaching. Um, I even love it. I like it specifically when you're working towards a common goal. For example, like if we're doing reading for that week, each group is different, obviously, because you're going to have specialized instruction. You're going to group your kids based on each group, what level they're at. So each group will have a different goal. Like group one is going to have the goal of maybe learning short O sounds, and each teacher, like I'll teach they'll come to me first in my group. I'll teach them what short O is, practice with it. Then they'll go over to the gen ed teacher, and she'll work on how they would implement that, like if that's writing on a whiteboard, or if that's using little task cards and sorting the sounds, or like both working on the same thing. I think that's the kind of intensive instruction that's needed. Um, and one of the articles talks about how you ha- the t sorry, what I'm trying to say is that gen ed teachers, like in inclusion settings, the gen ed teachers are only kind of teaching the gen ed curriculum, which is great because you want with the whole idea and wanting to have a least restrictive environment. Like, yeah, I love how inclusive classrooms are a thing, but those certain kids are not going to be at the level of learning the type of standards that gen ed students can do. So it's like you need to be open to teaching the adaptive curriculum if that's having you adapt to the state standard yourself. Or I know my teacher and she talks about this adaptive curriculum that actually exists, and how that's kind of what she works on. And really, this bunch of the gen ed kids, I'm not gen ed, I mean special ed kids, have IEP plans that have goals, that those are the goals that you should be working on. So, like in the inclusion classroom, they should also be working on those specific goals because they have that extra teacher in the classroom to help them with. If that makes sense. So I would just do station teaching, but kind of make it as meaningful and as engaging as possible with those kind of components I just said. Um, oh yeah, one last thing about that. I love the table too in the one of the readings talking about the components of instruction, like grouping. I just talked about the grouping, how important that is. The instructional design, so having small groups that like clearly define the skills or concepts they're going to learn. So that's what I just talked about too, and how you're going to deliver the instruction, the independent practice, and the progress monitoring. So I feel like all of those things make you need to be planning. Like how you're going to deliver the instruction, you got to plan that before. So that goes back to what I said earlier. An independent practice has to be planned so they have materials at their desk that is at their level that they can perform and do well at. So make finding those materials that they can do independently when they're not with the two teachers, that's really important and causes and you need a lot of planning for that. So just some more things to talk about. Um, okay, number three talks about two challenges that I'm going to experience and describe how you will address these challenges. So the first one I would want to talk about is the challenge of learning how to have a relationship where we can safely support each other. So the chapter two in the textbook talks a lot about supporting your co-teacher, like using those three types of feedback: positive, constructive, and supportive feedback. Which reading what each of those are, like you don't really think about the three different types. I just think about like feedback. But that's going to be a challenge with a new teacher is like some people might not take feedback well or might be like, why is this teacher telling me what to do? Like I want to have if I had a co-teacher, I want to have an open relationship or like an open um like an honesty policy maybe, like just if you have anything you want to say about me, how I can grow, how I can be better, how I can better support kids, please tell me and I'm gonna like love that you gave me constructive feedback because it'll help me grow. And I want to go for for my co-teacher, hopefully just as much as they want to grow from me. Like everyone's at different levels in their career, everyone has different experiences. I'm in the very, very low total pole. Like, so I learn as much things as I can every day because I'm learning as I go, being a first year teacher. But anyways, I just hope I know that'll be a challenge in the beginning, but I hope maybe starting with giving my co-teacher positive feedback first, like a few here and there of just positive things to say, like, oh, I love how you did that. I love how you told this kid this. Then you can form a healthy relationship and then maybe later on put a little bit like if you need to, hope you might not have to, but a little bit of constructive feedback if you think that you guys as a team could be better maybe or how you're going about teaching. So that's one challenge that kind of was on top of my mind. And the other challenge was in it's kind of related to the LD practice, like James and Nancy's article, because it talks a lot about how inclusion is great and all, but you have to have effective teaching and effective gen ed and special ed teachers in there. Like, um, adaptations need to be from both teachers. The article talks about how gen ed teachers are often not adapting the stuff for their kids. Like that they think that is the special ed teacher's job. But if the gen ed teacher, because they're in an inclusion classroom, so this kind of is their job, like they have to be just as like open and willing to adapt and modify material just like a gen ed, just like a special ed teacher is. Because to benefit kids with learning disabilities the most, like they need as much support as they can. So the if both teachers are doing the best they can, then that's the best support and the best instruction that that kid's gonna get. Um, and this article was interesting to learn about. It also talks about like how pull out because I about being kids being pulled out instead of being in an inclusion classroom, which is cool because obviously growing up there's always these kids being pulled out for for resource classes. And now that I'm a teacher, I know what these things are. And it was interesting just to learn about how effective they are because it says one of the article says that um being pullouts is really effective with student outcomes and how well students have been doing compared to inclusion classrooms, which makes me think like, is it because they're getting more one-on-one time or they're getting more one-on-one instruction? So that kind of goes back to um having to have that one-on-one, like the grouping, having that one-on-one time with each student, how important that is. Like if a gen ed and special ed teacher in a classroom co-teaching are not doing that, then no wonder pullouts are more effective than in an inclusion classroom. Um, I just hope that my inclusion classroom will be designed so like I'm kind of doing the pull out things myself. Like I don't need my kids to be pulled out because there is two teachers in there and hopefully we can both help these kids as much as we can. So we're hopefully my co-teacher and I can use the right strategies and scaffolding strategies to give them the enough instruction to succeed. Because obviously this pull-out setting has looked really effective. It's been going on for so many years. So now I think now as our as being teachers, our goal is to make the inclusion classroom just as successful. And obviously from these all these articles in the chapter, there's a lot of components to co-teaching that you would not think about if you didn't read these articles. So um I think I just rambled, but I wanted to talk about it and not write it down because I feel like I could get my points across better talking personally than writing. So hopefully this is okay. And I love these articles. I learned a lot, and I hope I answered these three questions. Good. Um, so yeah. Bye. Thank you.